Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I would say as a representative in the topic of crowdsourcing of a telco operator, which I am, more particular Mobistar, which is a country in the Orange Group. And I am not going to talk about what we think about crowdsourcing. My purpose here in the next 15 minutes is to talk to you about what we actually contribute. In a way, we think is maybe a different angle, but we do think that a telco operator in general, and Mobistar in particular, is extremely key of, if anything, accelerating crowdsourcing, but actually we think contributing to redefining, helping redefining crowdsourcing. And to do that, it's a pretty ambitious objective. I probably need roughly 2 slides to put you into telco business from an enterprise. So I'm in charge of enterprises. So all the companies that we work in, from small, medium to large, Mobistar is working with these companies. And I'll tell you in 2 slides what is at the heart of the disruption. And you understand that this is very then going to bring me back to what's at the heart of disruption of crowdsourcing, because in a way, crowdsourcing is getting to the same objective. And when let me talk about so what's happening in enterprise. So we all know, we've read these books, that companies were faced in the year 2000s with the importance of efficiency. So they went to re-engineering for efficiency, right? Change the processes, more efficient. And then we went into re-engineering for better customer experience the last 5 years. So a lot of change in processes. The starting point for us is what we think is, if this is working, is it is not anymore about re-engineering as a company challenge. It's about reimagining your business model. And obviously, the iconic example of Uber, we're all familiar to this crowd, but fundamentally, Uber, enabled by mobile technology, the cloud, the big data, is able to walk into an industry with no legacy and fundamentally rethink a business model. So you've heard this 1,000 times, but this is obviously really easy, I would say, for somebody that has absolutely no legacy. So most of the companies we work in actually have a couple of challenges which relate to this picture. And this is a metaphor I like to use, because actually in this picture I can capture all of the challenges that all of our companies actually face to handle with disruption as a company. So the wall that you see here is a wall which represents the old IT of all of our companies, right? Over the last 10, 20 years, we've built IT as companies. It's called legacy, the legacy IT. And then there is this new thing growing on top of it. And typically you'll hear me say, this is greenfield IT. This is new IT. But let me tell you a couple of challenges related to that picture that should wake up the discussion of the importance of crowdsourcing in this environment. But the first one is, this wall, this legacy, has been built over the years with an ecosystem of partners and a whole bunch of people working to build that legacy, or the famous big brands that we all know. But today, research shows that IT is only covering 50 to 60% of the processes of any of our companies. So let me repeat that in another way. Of all the companies we're working in, 40 to 50% of the processes that are part of our business model are actually not yet digitalized. Okay? And yet, all the money we spend is on the legacy. And so the first challenge is, we are working with a crowd of people, suppliers, that work on the legacy, yet the Uber of this world does not spend its energy on the legacy. They obviously are creating breakthrough experience because they work on the greenfield, on these 40% of processes that have yet to be digitalized by most industries. So that is the first challenge. The second challenge is that automatically you need as a company to talk to different suppliers when you think about greenfield IT. It's a different crowd. So if you want to innovate, we all know the innovator's dilemma is don't stick with your existing crowd of suppliers. You have to change your crowd of suppliers. And so it is really hard for companies to let go of the legacy and move to that new ecosystem. Second challenge. And then the third challenge is, of course, this is a whole new ecosystem that has to work together if you want to innovate. And at the heart of all these three challenges, one thing comes clear. There's new crowds trying to work together to innovate. The essence will and is remaining, it's a challenge of information. How do you accelerate that information? And that's where it's fair to say that a telco has to have a clear strategy to address that role and understand what it takes to be disruptive and enabling the companies. So I'll tell you about the three elements that disrupt, in our view, this strategy and how the ecosystem of the crowds that need to work together are changing. This is an obvious slide for you guys, but the first thing is more crowd means more information, but more importantly, from real-time information to really, really real-time information and business-critical information. So a telco operator is really, from years ago where we kind of were afraid of becoming commodity, getting back into the game of understanding, you know what? The access part is at the heart of the reliability of the transformation of so many new business models. This is not anymore commodity, by far anymore commodity. And we have the 4G as a Orange Group. We've invested 15 trillion in access, in Mobistar in particular, 600 million euros on the local footprint, which means we have now the best 4G and a half footprint. But we're testing the 5G, which will, primarily just increasing the pipes, but also getting this enormous good latency. And latency means that you can collaborate with people all over the world with basically no application on any device, because everything will be in the cloud. That's yet to come. The speed, but more importantly, the latency. And so we will all just live in the cloud, and everything will be latent. So the access is the number one focus of our strategy, and it is not a commodity. It's about reliability, quality, and speed and latency. First point. The second thing we're doing is understanding that the connectivity that, you often read crowdsourcing about getting people, and it's people-centric. We are clear that the real breakthrough in that change of reimagining companies is once you connect machines. And you all know the business of machine to machine, the Internet of Things. But when you remember what I said about 40% of the processes have not yet been digitalized, a lot of that is because machines in, out their business model have not been connected. So the Internet of Things, connecting all of these objects around your business model, will create a whole different type of crowd of intelligent machines. But more importantly, it is not just connecting a machine. What is changing, as we're discovering with connecting machines, is machines are able to capture context of wherever they are. A context that beforehand, a picture, an information, a sense, all of that capturing of information was never part of many processes of our company. The fact that you connect now these machines and you capture that context is redefining the processes and redefining the richness of the crowd. So now, first thing is we have better connected clouds. Second thing, we have crowds that can actually have access to more richer information. They become more intelligent. And then the last thing, obviously, is acknowledging as a telco operator that we should understand the role of what we can do and what we cannot do. And what we cannot do is pretend to be able to animate the whole ecosystem and actually replace the ecosystem. That's just not the logic of a current operator. The operator today understands that the value is when he can actually be an open operator and obviously have the open APIs to do so and create value make sure that obviously he doesn't get disintegrated and he can still pay for his investments. But if he has the right attitude towards the partners, we have seen in our machine-to-machine business that we are still making a good living because the partners understand that they need a reliable quality partner. And so it has pushed us to create actually platforms where we moved all of our machine-to-machine business on a platform that is fully actually in the cloud and open for open partners. So these are the three elements that physically we've done, and to work better with ecosystem. We also have a more intangible element is we understand the importance of the ecosystem, but we need to improve our proximity. I think BNP is also in that logic. How can we reinvent ourselves and our tools if we're not close to the ecosystem of innovators and startups? So, as France Telecom, as Orange, we actually have a commitment to participate to 500 startups. Mobistar in Belgium even pushes that to the early stage of schools, where we are participating to the IoTopia, which is a nice name, is the Internet of Things actually brought in a kit, like a Lego kit for kids at school. And so we asked them to reimagine elements that they face every day. Who else can better rethink than kids? And so we're then helping develop these ideas after that. So, what I hope to have said in the first couple of slides is telco is really at the heart of reimagining because of the crowd better connected, the crowd who is connecting people and machines with richer information, making sure the crowd can collaborate through APIs, and obviously helping hand in getting the proximity, because innovation of ideas is also at one point all about people. And that's what we think we are playing an active role in. Now, let me give you a couple examples that will illustrate that. The classical example is what we call connecting a device somewhere that was never connected. And I thought, what a better example for Belgium than the Interbrew tap of beer. Now, there's we even call it in Flemish, a bruin café. A brown café is the trademark of a traditional good bar. Well, lo and behold, it's going to stay brown, but it's going to have Mobistar in it, green. Because actually, it is an example where you connect a tap and you get contextual information. Because certain beer A is actually needing to be under a certain temperature, needs to have certain hygiene criteria, which is not necessarily the same as the beer number B. And so that information, that contextual information, is absolutely critical to secure, in the case of Interbrew, with a partner, Weisberger, which I think may be here in the room, actually to re-engineer actually how beer is being served. One example of rich information coming back. Another example is, you may know that Europe, cultural city was Mons, a city in Belgium. Well, that's an example, one of our early examples of how that information access that we have, and it's actually in a way big data of where are people walking or when they visit Mons. Well, we've actually, with partners, given that information. We were sponsors of that event to actually allow the mapping of where were people coming from, where did they visit, how long did they stay. After the fact, I would say information. What we've done since then is actually turn that into real-time information. Real-time information in another city, which is Antwerp, where we actually have once in a while these huge events, which are the giant walk in Antwerp. Well, the real-time information there is actually allowing, when it's shared with the police, to allow to change the routing real-time of the crowd so that they are better treated and more safe. So that's an example of giving access to information real-time. And then an example where we're working on as well today, not fully disclosed yet, but in a port. When you are in a port, there is actually a challenge when you fuel tanks, because a leakage is something catastrophe. We know, especially if you have a lot of fueling all the time, you cannot afford. Well, how can you best measure visually the fact that you have a leakage or not, than using a drone? So capturing the context of visual senses around the boat while fueling and bringing that information back real time is also part of enriching the whole process of fueling a tank, creating a crowd of information around a process that today often is resulting in really bad environmental impact. So I hope with these examples, in this very short presentation, that you understand from an operator in a couple of days that an operator feels at the heart of reimagining enterprises. And in a sense, this is about reimagining how people work together. It's about how the crowds actually work together. And that it's all about not being the girls on the left, but it's about being the girl on the right. Thinking differently, because that's what binds us all together with this topic. I hope that was relevant. Thank you. Have a great day. Do you have any questions?